Yeah, take it easy. Okay. Hey, I may be adjusting my microphone. Is that too loud? You're okay? Oh, good. Hey, as far as the finding hidden profits, I was a builder that didn't have any profits for about the first 4 years I was in business, and I was grossing 2.3, 2.9, 3.3. The business was already growing, and I'd meet with my accountant once a month, and he'd say, Dennis, you made $39,000, and you took in $947,000. Where's all the money for the quarter? And we would banter back and forth, and I would go to NAHB education, I'd go to AIA, even National Kitchen and Bath Association, and people would talk about these pretty substantial markups and profitability. But the question that never could be answered is, I'd meet a builder in the audience, and I'd say, hey, you're in Dallas. I mean, what do you make on your average house? So I'd rather not say. Well, I'm not going to compete against you, but are you making 10% or 20% or 30%? Well, I'd rather not say. Well, what are your cash costs in the house? Oh, we build for $90 a square foot and sell for $150. That's all I need to know. And this bit about 20% markup, I don't know who started that rumor. If you're working for 20%, you're giving away your professionalism. Hey, does anybody ever go to Wendy's or to a fancy steakhouse and order a steak at cost plus 20? Please laugh. No, that never happens. Okay, thank you. You know, but in the building industry, and then people beat us up. Well, Dennis, I'd feel more comfortable if we were at 15. Well, then we're even, because I'd feel more comfortable if we were at 35. So, I love JLC Magazine. I've been a contributing editor and a reviewer there for many, many years. I don't do so much anymore. It is the best building publication out there. It has business articles. It has trade articles. And it's relatively inexpensive. But you can find articles in there to help your mason become a better mason. To help your drywaller become a better drywaller. And you don't have to coddle them and teach them, because they'll have some nice articles in there. I wrote a column for Custom Home Magazine for 4 years, and I would submit the article 90 days in advance, and there'd be some banter back and forth and some editing changes, but I was supposed to write about, it was like Dragnet. I was supposed to write about real-world building and remodeling and design circumstances, but change the names to protect the innocent. And sometimes I'd get back to my office at 10:05, and I look, and I have 3 emails, so I answer them, and then at 10:30, I have 40. And there are people that are either glad to read the article, or they're upset. But once the magazine would hit desks, I'd get 200 emails within a day. And a lot of times I would touch a nerve, especially the one that really rang a bell was paying referral fees to realtors. And I got a lot of emails of builders saying, this is baloney, I hate doing it, but I don't know how to survive. But the angry emails I got were from realtors. Gee, I make a phone call and I make $15,000 referring this guy to you. I don't think that's fair. So. Second edition, it's doing great. NAHB hounded me for a long time to write it. It's been updated and it's been fun. It's a lot of work. Hey, what I'm going to talk about today, it isn't rocket science. This is an old Life magazine picture, and these guys are from Caltech figuring out how to go to the moon and how to get John Glenn into space. But you know, I gotta apologize. The parts that are washed out there are in bright red, and for some reason the thing is not picking up bright red. Contracting's biggest profit drain: a poor estimate. How do you have a poor estimate? Either you haven't estimated it, or you have a lousy set of plans. If you have a bad set of plans, you're going to have a bad contract, and you're probably going to end up in a dispute. You're going to have a jillion change orders because the specifics aren't in your plans, and you may end up in court, or you may end up with the final draw, you don't get it. So you want to stay away from bad plans and specs. You have an insufficient contract if you have bad plans and specs. Change orders. I like them, but I dislike them. I'm going to show you some tricks today to help you resolve your change order management. And you know, I can't even read the top line what I have there, but define a good versus bad client. I've been a builder long enough that I can sit down and have a glass of iced tea with a client, a potential client, and decide if I'm going to build for them or not. I'm not building 400 units a year. I'm building 3 to 5. And I want people that have built and remodeled before because they're looking for a professional. When someone just inherited money from grandma and they drive a Beamer, they're probably not going to be my client. Because their expectations, well, you would think I'd get anything I want for 200 bucks a square foot. Well, it depends. Well, we need a helipad, and we need 3 RV garages, and a Hugh Hefner grotto pool out back. It isn't going to happen for 200 bucks a square foot. Well, we've talked to 7 of the builders that can do it. Great, I'm not going to be 8. And I sound pessimistic. I'm not. It's frustrating. I can't spend gold out of straw. And people are looking at me thinking, this guy's making too much money. Well, my kids wear tennis shoes and I pay an electric bill every month. Do you? Everybody here has electricity at their house too, huh? If they're poor listeners, if they're going to challenge everything that I say, I tell them the rule from the get-go here is I'm the captain of the ship, and when I tell you blue, it's going to be blue. You can discuss it, but I'm not going to argue with you. Task, restore garage with a $1,500 budget. Geez, I wish these lights were there because this is a great picture of a dump that's Adobe. Can you do anything with that for $1,500? I think almost nothing. So, this is one of my favorite slides. I've been showing this slide since 1994, and I keep thinking I probably had to update it to $250 or $300,000. But I show it in the Midwest, and people still look at it. I show it on the East Coast, like in the Boston area or San Francisco, and people think I'm crazy. My busboy makes $160 grand a year. But if you're trying to make that kind of money, I want you to work it out to know your worth per day, per hour. So that anything that you touch, you're going to average bringing in $70 an hour if your target goal is $160,000 a year. There's 256 working days. At 9 hours a day, you divide 160 by the 2304 working hours, and that's how you get your average. But Dennis, how much does your plumber charge you? Or the electrician? They're more than 70, right? I see lots of smiles around here. And you're a builder, and you're supposed to make $32.87 an hour? Who decided that? If you don't want to bill by the hour, or if you feel uncomfortable, but you can do 4 projects a year, just charge a management fee of 40 grand a house. The owner pays all the bills. You get paid 40 grand for managing it, and then you hit your goal of 160. You know, there's nothing wrong with being creative and trying new things for how you build. Hey, am I blocking the screen for this group over here? I feel like I'm hiding behind this thing. Normally I'm down on the floor without the podium. So, change order costs for field supervision. Here I've added up superintendent's salary, the overhead, cell phone expense, vehicle expense. Again, divided by the 256 working days per year. Let me use my Austin Powers laser. There it is. So your superintendent is costing you $240 a day, $27 per hour, or $30 an hour if you include 2 weeks vacation per year, because you've got to burden that pay on another 10 working days. But is your superintendent allowed to talk Super Bowl with the client for 2 hours? And you have 5 jobs, and he can't even get, or she can't even get that in a day if they're going to talk Super Bowl. So you got to have this rule of, hey, all conversations are short and sweet, and if they need a decision, you call Dennis. Pretty simple. Calculating your office overhead charges. This is the same routine. How much does it cost to have your office, pay the lighting bill, pay your annual insurance, pay your vehicle expense for a year, even if you approximate it, before you do anything. And then you divide it by doing maybe 10 projects a year, and you know your overhead per project. And they told us that, well, you should make 10% profit and 10% overhead. How many in the room do insurance work? Insurance companies insist on 20%. And they tell you you can build 10 and 10. So I really outsmarted them. I would build 10% and then multiply that times 1.10, which generates 21%. It's still not enough. Profitability centers on management tools, and I can read line 2 there, it says change orders, but it centers on allowances, change orders, your draw payment schedule, your specifications, and warranty issues shall be defined. Once you do some of this backup paperwork, it's done. You can use it for every job. It's a template. It's a formula. It's something that when you describe how your concrete work works for the driveway, and it's bullet pointed under the specifications and it's alphabetical. We'll talk to that in the latter part of today's talk. Once that's done, it's over. It's complete. You don't have to do a lot of editing or typing, or maybe your spouse is a better typist than you that can write these things up. But getting to that, do you ever want to have a conversation with an owner after they've been in the house for a year and a half about an expansion crack in the driveway? Anybody want to sign up for that? Well, I tell them in my specs, you know what I can guarantee you about your driveway? That it's going to crack. And here are the standards set forth by the Arizona Register of Contractors, and they all have to do with a nickel. If you have a crack thicker than a nickel, sorry about the feedback, or if you have a crack that is out of the horizontal plane more than the thickness of a nickel, you may have a problem. But I've learned many, many years of enforcement. The registrar, contractor, and inspector will come out and look at a crack and say, you're done. This house is 22 years old. Are you kidding me? That is not a warranty issue. And they're more on the builder side than they are on the... They're supposed to be neutral, but they tend to side with the builders versus homeowners. Something that I think all of us find very frustrating about a change order is, as I've broken it down here, client calls into the office, we talk 20 minutes, the GC calls the superintendent on site, the superintendent calls back about a delay, you've got to call 3 subs because now all of a sudden you're putting in a skylight, you've got a natural gas line that runs through where you're going to put the skylight, and ductwork that's too close, and you've got to rip that out. And well, the next thing you know, you've invested 5.25 hours of company time, and you haven't done anything. All you've done is stir the pot. So at some point, somebody's got to pay for that if you're going to meet your profit goal. Balancing the numbers. When I would build a high-end custom home, something over, say, $700,000, I'd add up all my cash costs, and I'd get a deposit to do the estimate that is refundable against the first draw, because I don't give away my estimates for free. I learned that many, many years ago. But I would mark it up 1.35, and that generates a 26% average margin, or profit. Dennis, you can't do that. Why not? Well, it's not industry standard. Well, I'm setting my own standard. Does anyone in the room read Remodeling magazine, or anyone a pretty substantial remodeler in the room? Okay, what is the national average markup for remodeling work in America? Just ball. I'm not trying to quiz you or embarrass you. Just tell me again. Okay, well, he says people offer 15 and 20%. Well, it depends what you're charging the percentage on. But the national markup on dollar per dollar, that if I'm true about what all my cash costs are, it's 1.85. So whatever I spend on the job for $1, I'm getting $1.85 back. And that's why I don't do remodeling cost plus, because people see that and think it's crazy. And you know, I can also work magic and be creative and make the costs and mark it up 30% and still make 85%. Of course, I have to lie and cheat, but hey, I learned many years ago doing work for Cost Plus, you turn in a $93,586.10 draw, and the owner calls me back and says, you know, Dennis, I'm not going to pay this, and I'm going to have my accountant go over every invoice that you photocopied, because there's one invoice on here that you get a discount on, and you haven't given me the discount. You know, the discount's $1.37 or something. And you just think, man, oh man, I'm too old for this. Thanks for laughing. Unlocking your profit potential is linked to knowing what your clients expect and meeting those goals. And I'm not saying this to be funny or cynical. I think if you have a disgruntled client, I think ultimately you've probably done something wrong. You've miscommunicated, you've been sloppy in your communication, the paperwork is sloppy, something has been that you need to have paperwork to back you up. You need to have things written down that spell out what they're getting and what they're not getting. And the closest example I can think of this is we're having a 3-month, 12-week design discussion where we go from a preliminary set of plans, the architect is drawing up the plans, and I'm terrible with a ruler and a pencil and design, so I'm not a design build guy. But I'm there to offer cost consulting. I'm there to offer, no, you don't want to do that because that's going to cost too much, and don't do this, and let's go with Kohler instead of American Standard. I get a better deal with Kohler, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but the architect has said, hey, Dennis, I got a 6-inch thick driveway we're putting in. And I said, why 6 inch? Is the soil unstable? No. But Dennis, I really like 6 inch. Well, I do too, but we're trying to save money, so why don't we go with 4 inch? Well, the owner might be there during this discussion, and I asked them, is it okay with you? Are you going to park concrete trucks on your driveway every night? Is your husband a mover? You know, is your son a mover? Are they going to park a moving van on your driveway? Why would you need 6-inch thick? Well, because it's more sturdy. Well, I'll give you that if you want to spend the money, but it's going to be 50% more than 4-inch concrete mud. Okay, well, let's go with 4-inch. I'm going to go back to the specs, and under driveway, which is alphabetical, A, B, C, D, etc., I'm going to have a bullet point that says original plans called out 6-inch thick driveway concrete. On April 7th, 2018, owner agreed to use 4-inch thick concrete to save money, period. And I'm not going to court arguing about the driveway. I don't want the owner 9 months later saying, hey Dennis, you know, I hate to bring this up because you've been a great builder and everything, but man, you burned us. You put in 4-inch concrete instead of 6. No, we didn't. Oh, I forgot. If I had a nickel for every time I heard I forgot, and I'm saved by the paperwork. I've been a court consultant, legal consultant, and most of the time I just write a report. And sometimes it's really, first of all, the legal system, if you're a builder or an architect, you've already got 4 bullets in you by the time you hit the courthouse. Because the way the system is set up is poor old Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, the owner, came in and the builder architect took advantage of it. That's what the court system thinks. So you've already got this against you. The only thing that's going to save you is the paperwork. So if you invest a little bit more time on the paperwork, you're not going to have to go to court. Has anyone ever been to court on a case? You don't have to tell anyone, but how much time did it eat up out of your life over a year's time? Okay, but it still ate up some time, right? Okay. And congratulations. But I have seen to where if someone just had another sentence in their contract, they wouldn't be in court. Pretty simple. Having paperwork that defines the work, details, products, procedures, equals a contract. If you're working with a lousy set of plans and you think, well, I'm smart enough, we're not going to build the exterior walls with 2x4 walls, we're going to use 2x6. That's the code here in Fort Worth, Texas, etc. And we've got to insulate them, and we've got to put blue board on the outside before we put on the stucco or the siding, blah, blah, blah. But you've got to write this down or correct it in the plans from the get-go, or that you're going to have an inadequate contract and you're doing work without designation and without permission. It's got to be in writing. And I sound like a school marm talking about this. I would much rather invest 5 more hours in paperwork and administration at the get-go than have a problem later on that's going to take 50 hours of my life over a month. I'm not going to do it. Purpose of a construction contract: clarifies the work to be done, identifies parties, blah, 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 but answers any and all ambiguities. I want the owner to look at the contract and understand, looking at the contract and your specs and the blueprints, exactly what they're getting, but clients can't read blueprints. They can read specs a lot better, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Incidentally, the contract that Texas Builders has is excellent. It's very well done, but what I'm advocating here is to add specifications. Pretty simple. Here's my contract with all of my categories, and I'm not trying to challenge your contract. I don't know, number 33 and 34, if you have designated in the TAB contract the bit about owner rep and service rep and owner rep, because you want to make those one person so that all the communications go through A and B. You're not going to listen to Barney's cousin, who's fresh out of graduate school from the from Yale University School of Architecture. Dennis, they just taught us in architectural school. I had an owner do this to me once over Christmas break vacation. My little Joey is a junior in architectural school at Yale, and he's got straight A's, and we're sending him out to inspect the project. And here's this kid talking to me in a pair of diapers about, hey, how come you did that? If it were me, I would have done this. And after a while, I was like, hey, kid, thanks for being here. I'd be more than happy to talk to you, but your father is the owner representative. Write down all your questions, and your dad and I will discuss it later. Good luck to you. Be careful driving back. There's a lot of snow on the road between here and Phoenix. Plan problems and resolution. Since I didn't design your plans, if I find a mistake in your plans, it's not my fault. And if we missed it during the estimate, it's also not my fault. At some point, the architect has to be an adult and be held culpable for what they've done. And the structural engineer, and you're laughing. Architects, this thing, if you see something on a set of plans that you don't agree with, put a big fat X through it with your initials and a date. This bit about the cover on a set of plans, the architect shall be informed immediately if builder finds any mistakes, discrepancies, non-code compliances, blah, 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 in these set of plans. If you have that on your set of plans, you take on all the liability. It isn't your job to be the mother of the architect. It isn't your job to double check the plans. I'm on a high horse here, but the other thing is, giving a preliminary price when you just have a floor plan is nuts. Or if you do, don't give a range, I give a max, up to about $480,000. Well, what would the minimum be? Up to $480,000. I don't have enough facts and figures. Well, what kind of cabinet you going to use? Inexpensive. What's inexpensive? Well, I don't know. Are our homeowners drywall experts? Because I am. Hey, is $10 a yard a good allowance for carpet? Are you building a tree fort or are you building a house? I mean, can you get a nice carpet for 10 bucks installed? Probably not. The other thing is, hey Dennis, did I tell you my cousin's a Kohler rep in Florida? No. Well, he's going to give me all the plumbing fixtures at cost and then ship them out here. No. Well, you use Kohler. I do. I love Kohler. I speak at Kohler. And I'm not using Kohler products from Florida because what happens when the toilet doesn't flush? How many times have you installed a toilet that you have to replace because it's bad and it might be a Kohler toilet? It had an issue, but my plumber comes and fixes it and we're done. I'm not calling somebody in Miami, hey, can you schedule a trip, and I don't know if you want to fly or take Greyhound out to Flagstaff, Arizona from Miami to fix a toilet. And the local plumber is going to be, hey, you bought that prom date when you ordered plumbing from Miami, Florida. I'm not going there. Today we're going to talk about change order policies and procedures and allowances that's up there in red. And we already talked about owner rep and contractor rep. How should you look at change orders and allowances? Are they a bomb or are they a money tree? And I think the money tree is a lot better for all of us. Contract wording, the things in red. Can anyone read those? Yeah, I'm sorry. And I was trying to be so clever to highlight certain things so it wouldn't look like a busy slide. But A, allowance amounts were predetermined based upon owner directives and selections prior to start of the project. That means if you're talking about door lock hardware, do you want to use EMSER? Do you want to use Schlage? Do you want to use Kwikset? Do you want to use Yale locks, or are they going to be residential or commercial? Because one is $35 a set, the other is $350 a set. How many in the room have used Rocky Mountain door hardware? Is it cheap? Is it hard to install? How long does it take to get? You know, it's like 16 weeks out. And God bless them, they make wonderful stuff, but it is not an efficient way to go. And an owner won't believe me that we have a 12-month project and we need to order the hardware the day we break ground and dig the footings. Because it may take 24 weeks to get the hardware. So, contractor will encourage owners to finalize all decisions prior to commencement of work, but will allow up to 5 allowances. I can wiggle my way around that too and take floor coverings and make that 5 allowances. Tile, vinyl, wood floor, stone floor, and carpet. Or I can call it 1 allowance floor covering. Another one light fixtures, another one bath fixtures, etc. But I want my owners to make all the decisions before we even break ground. And donut is the best selection of allowances. That's 0. Calculate allowances, we'll talk about those in a minute. No owner-supplied materials or labor are allowed. Well, Dennis, we're going to install our own light fixtures. No, you're not. Well, you know, we'll do it on weekends. We're going to do our own painting. We're going to install our own deck planking. Because Frank, you know, is kind of artsy, and Frank wants to do his own deck, and we're not doing it. You're laughing because you've heard this, right? Hey, I'm going in for a knee operation, and I'm going to help the doctor. No. Hey, I wrote an editorial response about allowances and having owners supply their own materials to JLC, and wow, the editors called me and they laughed and they said, boy, Dennis, you've jumped up readership. I had my snooze thing on there to show when 2:45 came around, so I got a feel of where I'm at with the talk. But I sent a letter that said, this is equivalent, you letting the owner supply their own thing, is you going to Sam's Club and buying a 55-gallon drum of dental filling amalgam and wheeling it into your dentist's office and said, hey, I brought my own dental amalgam, can I have a discount? We're going to leave this here because I have 4 kids and I know they're going to get cavities. And boy, did I set off a bomb. You can't do that to people. Yeah, well, okay, that's fine. Everybody has opinions, so. Change order procedure. I I think it's very important to outline and add this to the TAB if it's not in there, but changes to the work as defined in the original contract, construction, agreement, or documents for the project are additional work and will cost additional money. Just because I signed the contract doesn't mean, oh, you never have to pay another dime. That isn't how it works. Change orders have a minimum fee of $175. If you're thinking about a change order, before I give you a price, I need $175. Sometimes asking people for that check is reaching their hand into a basket full of rattlesnakes. Oh no, we're not ready to write a snake. We'll write a check. We're not doing anything until we get a check. Dennis, it doesn't seem right. I mean, you're experienced. I mean, can't you give me a price off the top of my head? Well, yeah, but I'm not doing that. We work with paperwork. I thought you understood that. For my office to write up the paperwork, for us to specify a model, because I'm going to be factual of which Velux skylight you're getting. You want 2x2 or 2x4, there are 3 different models of each one. Which model you getting? Well, I don't know. You're trying to make this complicated. No, I'm not. I want to put in the right Velux skylight you want. Well, I want the one at Home Depot that's $175. Velux, my lumberyard doesn't sell the same Velux that Home Depot sells. Anyway. All change orders will be written up, signed, and funded prior to commencement of work. Change orders will be considered authorized when signed by the owner rep and the builder rep. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. If you write up a change order and your office has 3 hours invested, you have 2.5 hours through your superintendent, and you as the contractor have 1.25, even if you know what your hourly costs are for all 3 of those, you've done $343 and you haven't done anything yet. All you've done is stir up dust. And what happens when you tell the owner, hey, it's going to be $1,240 to install that skylight, including your $343, but you're not going to tell them that, and they tell you no. What happens to that $343? I will tell the owner, to get you a price, we need $500 non-refundable. On top of the $175 for the minimum change. Well, Frank and I didn't understand that. Well, I'm sorry. We're just like a doctor's office. When you schedule another appointment, it's going to cost money. We're a professional here. I thought we talked about this during our pre-contract sales interview. Calculated allowances. I'll try to go through these pretty quick. This is my favorite that is about carpet. And in the specs, I will identify which areas are going to get carpet, because 9 months from now, the owner might forget. Are they including the basement? Are they not including the basement? Are they getting tile? Are they getting just a slab floor? What about the rumpus room, the bonus room over the garage, etc.? Then I'm going to add all of those rooms up, and I get 390 yards, and I encourage them to go to my carpet person and look at carpets that they like. So I know whether I should set the allowance at $25, $28, $42, or some expensive Karastan that's $172 a yard installed. And I'm not trying to pick on Karastan, but there's some very expensive carpets out there. And then my carpet calculation, I came up with 3219 square foot with 9% waste, 9 square foot per yard, 389.8, that's how I got 390, 390 yards times 34.35 per yard carpet. There's the allowance amount. You cannot argue with this in a court of law. An owner can't come back to you and say, geez, they cheated me on the allowance. You're an adult and you can read, right? Then unless you're dyslexic and you can't read, there it is, and bam, you're done. You're out of here. Electrical fixtures. I use my expertise to tell them, hey, your budget for your dining fixture should be X. For the breakfast fixture, this. But this is after we've had a discussion, so they have a guide of what to buy when they go to the electric fixture store and what to select. And Dennis, you'd be really proud. We found a dining room fixture for $600 that we love. Hey, that's great. We'll apply some of this allowance to another allowance. I want you to be empowered. Well, we already spent that $600 because we bought a more expensive can trim. Well, that's okay too. Hey, as a fixture allowance for electrical, how many light bulbs is it going to take? What's the cost of the bulbs to fit out these fixtures, especially in today's world of LED? Did you spend $1,000 in bulbs? Is that included? You better say something about the bulbs, or you're going to get stuck buying the bulbs. The other thing that is I find very valuable, and I use this as a decision due date. I've got 5 allowances: carpeting, stone veneer, electric fixtures, doors, tile, master bedroom, shower, and the allowance amounts that are all calculated, and the decision due date at the latest. Do my owners bypass these dates? They always do. I got to call them up 2 weeks in advance. I got to call them a week in advance. Dennis, it's our anniversary. It's November 1st. That's okay. Can we get it by November 5th? But other than that, I mean, we've been putting this off for 6 months, and you're telling me right now you want to put it off for another 2 weeks? How come? You know, let's make a decision. One of my favorite things that I still use in today's world of electronics is I have carbonless paper that I get Kinko's and PIP, the Postal Instrument Press, to print up for me. They're little half sheets that say they're 8.5 by 5 inches wide, and they say Dixon Ventures Job Site Action Form. And when you're done, you write down what's happening, and the owner gets a copy, and one of them goes to the office, and they sign it. And there's no misunderstanding. If an owner complains to my superintendent, tell Dennis, you guys put the skylight in the wrong place. I wanted it centered in the hallway, and it looks like it's off-centered, and your superintendent measured it and says it's centered, but I don't believe it. So, and he's going to write that up, and the owner's going to sign it, my superintendent's going to sign it, and we're going to take action on it. And that way it's not lost, and the owner actually gets a little piece of paper. When it involves a change order, to initiate the change order, they're going to sign this form out on the job. And when they tell me, oh, I've got to talk to Shirley, my wife, Dennis, she's the one with all the decision making, she's the owner rep. You're right. Talk to Shirley if you want to go off ahead with the skylight, but we're not doing anything until we get a signed initiation. Dennis, this seems really rigorous. We went with you because we thought you were going to be pretty easy to work with. I am easy to work with. I just have paperwork. I'm not going to do anything without your authorization. Hey, if you have a superintendent that is telling homeowners things like, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, if this were my house, I'd put a skylight here in the hallway. I'm going to show that person the door so fast it's going to hit him on the backside. We don't need any more work. We don't need you. Well, Dennis, I thought we could make another $500, and then you'd share that with me at the end of the year. Go get your own contracting company. I'm running this one. And I'm not trying to be mean, but hey, is it easy? If somebody raised their hand in here, then we're going to have a cup of coffee after the talk. Is there anyone in this room that thinks being a general contractor would be described as an easy profession? Please raise your hand. I don't think it is. I think it's difficult. And the stress levels are dramatic. There's a guy in the back behind the camera who raised both hands. Oh, I'm just teasing. You were stretching, okay. Allowance selection, no price change. The owners picked the standard carpet. We selected a color, and net price change, 0. I'm still going to write this up, and we're going to sign it because they made their decision, and I'm going to document it. Example 2, a real change. There's a credit, there's a debit, and they're going to sign it, and we're going to proceed. And in the red up here, I have initiation of change, expiration of change, and that's usually 24 hours. We're not going to wait for an answer on how thick to do the footing, and we're not going to give them a month to make a decision because we need to know now. We're pouring the footing tomorrow. And unfortunately, I put those in red on all of the change orders to highlight them. So, and here's something that I've broken down on the left, an allowance additional cost to show electrical fixture package 1, the freight shipping, the bulbs, this change order, the allowance credit, which is in red also, and then the contractor fees on top of that, blah, 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 blah. Or you just show one fat number, 980206, and away you go. Documentation. This is something that anything that goes on the job that could be a problem later, I'm going to write up a change order and I'm going to document it. Pretty simple. They sign it, we sign it. Sometimes the owners don't even want to sign it, but it's going in my file. Option 3 was substituting wood carriage house doors for all 3 9x8 aluminum roll-up doors. Owner has elected to keep the standard garage doors in color effective December 15th per Bill Sanderson. This is done and the cap is closed. The lid is closed and decision made. Project delay. I'm going to do the same thing. A credit. If I'm giving the owners a credit, I'm going to write it up fast so they understand they're getting $175 back. Handyman, time materials. We'll do anything you want for $55 an hour, and a superintendent is going to oversee it at $75 or $78 an hour. And we'll assemble anything you want from IKEA. That's not true, because that's an owner-supplied thing. Hey, I had a superintendent call me one day and say, I broke the rule. I told an owner they could buy knockdown cabinetry from a big box store and that we'd install it in his garage. And my guys were like, Dennis, you broke it. I know, but these people, they beat me down. I was at a weak point, and I'm gonna do it. Well, Francis calls me on the phone and he says, hey, we got a problem out here. And I said, oh yeah? And he said, yeah, well the cabinet boxes came and you pulled off the cardboard box and set it aside, and you look at the cabinet box and it's so bad we can't decide if we're hanging the cabinet box or the cardboard box. What do you think we should do? And I was like, just get on it. Nobody thinks that's funny? Okay, thanks for laughing. This guy Francis has been with me a long time. Options. This is one of my favorite allowance items that shows option A, B, and C, and you write it up. It's part of the specs. But I empathize with the owner. The owner, the female part of the ownership, might tell me, Dennis, I really can't decide what floor covering I'm going to use in the basement until I see it, the shadow lines and what it looks like with the sun coming in. So, okay, well, now's the time. I've made it easy for you that I've identified all 3 things you've chosen. One's 19 grand, one's under 10, and one's a little bit under 13 grand. Let's make a decision. I've written it down. All I have to do is circle it and sign it and write me a check. Simple. Change order summary. With every change order, they get a change order summary, and any accounting program that's worth its weight in salt, especially for builders, will print this, because you type up the change orders. I've used Sage Master Builder forever, since 1990, and I'm on version 3062 right now, I think. That should have been a little funny. There's so many decimals, you know. But they're the same people that years later they wrote QuickBooks. Reality check. Estimating. This is how you get your specifications. Hey, we're ending up at 3, finishing at 3, because I've got about 1 minute 3, and wow, I got a bunch more slides. I thought we were going a little longer, but the way that you get a good estimate is you build it on facts and figures. You need to read the plans to see if there's any double-wall drywall in the job. You need to read the facts and figures to see if the tubs in the job are pressed steel, or are they cast iron, or are they fiberglass, or are they acrylic. And even though your sub-plumber is buying the fixtures, I think you need to know the facts. You need to review the plans. And at some point, I had so much warranty work on certain things, I'm not going to denigrate the 2 that are plastic, But I wouldn't allow them in my homes because I'm not going to do the warranty work. Eventually they crack for whatever reason. Oh, wow. We're not even going to go there. This is a barrel that's leaking about all the steps to an estimate. But again, there's lots of stuff in red, including the spooge that's running out on the slide there. This is something that I think it's important to relay to the audience here. I received a call from someone. We've talked on the phone 5 minutes. We're going to have lunch. And they tell me that they've got a $900,000 preliminary budget and total under roof is 4,500 square feet. They want to meet with a builder, so I'm going to have iced tea and a chicken salad sandwich with these people over lunch. Well, I can scribble on the back of an envelope that, hey, I'd like to make 180 grand. It sounds like it's going to be an 11-month job. I want to estimate, specify, and sell the job. That's $8,500. I can add up what it's going to cost to administer this job, and it's half the budget. And I haven't even seen the plans yet. But I know that I'm going in when these people tell me, well, Dennis, our budget was $900, but we'd really like to get it done for $650. I'm late for my kid's soccer game. I forgot, I'm having 3 wisdom teeth extracted out of this molar here today. I gotta go. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about draws. We're running out of time. I want to get to the specs real quick. Specifications, example 1, and I'll keep you for about another 5 to 7 minutes. And if you need to go, please feel free. I don't want to make anyone late for an appointment. But I'm specifying up here the color. The concrete is at 2,500 PSI at 28 days. I mean, all of this is very standard. You just put it in your contract for every project you build. And if the mud goes to 3,000 PSI, 6 sacks cement, you can change it, modify it. Driveway layout, as per plan. Reinforcement, supplier, thickness. Hey, when you form up 4-inch thick concrete, what do you use? 2x4? Well, a 2x4 is 3.5 inches tall. And that's why they have all the different holes in concrete stakes. You can actually raise the form and have a little run out at the bottom. But you better be pouring 4-inch mud or you could run into a problem and replace the driveway. Here's one of my faves. Use. Driveway concrete will be poured during the final phase of house completion. Vehicles and heavy truck traffic, moving van, is not permitted for a minimum of 10 days after last concrete pour. Because I build in a 4-season climate, we can have a snowstorm in late April and the house is supposed to be done May 1st. And I might pour the mud April 27th for the driveway, and even though they're moving in, the house is done, they can't put a moving van on May 1st. So, stucco. I talked about that eventually it's going to crack, and if it does, this is how we're going to repair it. It doesn't mean we have to tear the house down. One of the things I want you to look at, this is magnificent masonry work that's at Colonial Williamsburg, believe it or not, on a parking garage. But if you look at this wonderful limestone on this gable end, there's all this backwash crud on the limestone. Who pays to get that off? And it's rain backwash because you didn't have gutters. You should have spread gravel. You should have put tarp down. Or if you tell me, Dennis, that's 10 minutes with a power wash. I don't think so. I think it's wire brush and detergent with 29 man-hours just on that front gable end, and then you might change the texture of the limestone so it doesn't match the other stone. You know, a little bit of preventative medicine is a good thing. Have a thorough contract. Each change order is a mini contract. Document in writing, minimize allowances, don't negotiate. I don't think you can ever win. Hey Dennis, you know, we've added up your contract and it's $203.57 a square foot. And I saw on HGTV the other day, oh no. You know, we should be paying only $190. Will you reduce the price to $190 and we'll sign the contract now? And the answer is no. As soon as I agree to this, the entire rest of the job is going to be a negotiation. And every time I tell them $492.19, can I hear $400? How about $390? Dennis, I'll have my son help you. No thanks. Hey, another slide that I think is very important. And this should produce some laughter, but these are words that I've specifically dragged off of plans, and some of them you may need to think about. All copper plumbing. What about drain, waste, and vent? Can you use ABS? Not if you're going to follow that directive. What about the P-trap underneath the sinks that are vinyl? They're PVC, can you use? Nope, they better be copper, you're going to go to court. I know what they mean, but it's a lousy use of language. They're lazy. They should have had more words. Plumbing lines are to be insulated and soundproof. Does that mean if the water line is 300 feet over there and I can't hear water running, we're all set? Or does that mean that if this were a water pipe and I put I hear water moving? One of my faves, concrete by an engineer that added this. I love engineers, but sometimes their reality and differential equations don't meet. Concrete flatwork to be perfectly level. Has anybody ever poured perfectly level concrete? Hey, if you think you have, get a flashlight, go over at night, and lay it on the driveway and see how it does this. All walls to be smooth within a 64th of an inch. I don't even know what that. I don't even know what that means. How would you measure that? All adhesives, glues, paints comply with Rule 66. Countertops to be adult-friendly finish height. Okay, I can do that, but I need a number. Is that 38? Is that 36? Contractor responsible for assuring that cabinetry is ADA compliant. ADA of Texas? ADA federal? Is this a government building? I'm not trying to be mean or disrespectful. I need facts. R38 insulation blow-in depth to be 18 inches after settling. A year? 2 days? Master bedroom is to be soundproof from all family room noise. You have 2 kids that light off an M80 and you're not supposed to hear it? Low E window coating to minimize UV degradation of carpet. I build and live in an area that the sun is just brutal. If we install navy blue carpet and you put a couch on that and there are windows in the room, a month later you can move that couch and you're going to see the outline where the rest of the room has faded, the blue. And in today's world, I'm an old chemist, but in today's world of things being biodegradable and things environmentally safe, the dyes and colors used today are not what they were 40 years ago, 30 years ago, because they weren't environmentally sensitive. Hey, look around next time you're on the freeway. Cars are in raspberry red, dark gray, black, or white, and those are the standard colors of cars because they're trying to be environmentally sensitive with the paint pigments. Pretty simple. Okay, we're done. I kept you over a little bit further, but I want you to leave and make more money and blame me. Thank you very much.